At first, they looked like the perfect family, 13 kids, a mom and dad who seemed loving, and they were devoted Christians living peacefully. But what happened in their home, where everything seemed so nice, was a terrible shock to everyone. One cold January night, the truth came out. One of their kids, brave and strong, got away from the terrible things happening to them and told the world about the horrors hidden within the walls of their home. In today's episode, we delve into one of the most horrifying cases of parental abuse and captivity that shocked the world, the story of David and Louise Turpin. David Allen Turpin, a computer engineer with experience at Virginia Tech, Lockheed Martin, and Northrop Grumman, met his wife Louise Ann Turpin at Princeton High School and married her in 1985 in Pearisburg, Virginia. The Turpins are Pentecostal Christians, and as part of their beliefs, the couple had numerous children because God called on them to do so. They produced 10 daughters and 3 sons between 1988 and 2015. But the Turpin family's 13 children were raised in a tightly controlled and abusive environment in Perris, California, which was dubbed a house of horrors by the media. The children were rarely seen outside and were noted for their pale appearance. David and Louise Turpin isolated their children from the world and locked them inside their home for years. The escape. When police officers entered the Turpin family's home, they found the children there so malnourished that they couldn't even tell that one of the victims was actually a 29-year-old woman when they saved her. She was the eldest of the Turpin kids, but was so underfed and unwell that her muscle growth had stagnated and she clocked in at a mere 82 pounds. Feces adorned the carpets as the Turpin parents didn't always allow their kids to go to the bathroom. The Turpin children had even been chained or tied to their beds rather frequently. Between only being fed once a day and being granted 1 shower per year, it seemed inevitable that one of the Turpin children would make a run for it. In January 2018, David and Louise Turpin's 17-year-old daughter finally did. She jumped out of a window and called 911 and pleaded for officers to save her siblings. That was how the disturbing Turpin family tale began to come to a close, or rather, brought the country's attention to it. It will be a long road to mental and physical recovery for the 13 Turpin children as their parents spend the rest of their lives likely in prison. But perhaps Louise Turpin's own past will shed some light on the horrifying person she became to her children. Louise Turpin's background. How Louise happened to this crime, however, was through an abusive and toxic childhood of her own. Louise's sister, Teresa Robinette, said that their mother, Phyllis, regularly sold the 2 girls to a wealthy pedophile who would routinely abuse them. Nonetheless, what Louise did to the Turpin family children came as a shock to Teresa. The sister said she always thought of Louise as a good girl who never drank, smoked, or did drugs. Teresa Robinette's shock at how her sister turned out is understandable. But their other sister, Elizabeth Flores, was less surprised, and her explanation of Louise Turpin makes for a more complete picture of who the Turpin matriarch really was and how it may have been inevitable that she becomes the torturer of her own children. Of course, Louise wasn't alone throughout her obsessive engagement in all of these worrisome activities. To this day, the House of Horrors mother has remained a married woman, and to paint an even more clarifying picture of this bizarre, lifelong saga, a look at David Turpin is required, the Turpin family patriarch. David Turpin. The abusive patriarch of the Turpin family had a rather promising childhood and early career. David and Louise Turpin eloped when the patriarch was 24 years old and his wife 16. He had convinced her Princeton, West Virginia High School to let him sign Louise out, and the two made it to Texas before Phyllis Robinette and her husband Wayne's police complaints forced the couple back home. Louise's father was a preacher, and oddly enough, his motivation to bring her back stemmed entirely from the urge to have a proper ceremony. The 1,000-mile cross-country trip came to a close with David and Louise getting married back in Princeton in 1984. Louise's father wanted to visit her after her father's retirement in 2012, but Louise refused due to a lasting rift between them. Her parents, David and Louise Turpin, lived in Perris, California, when Phyllis Turpin died in February 2016. Despite their deathbed requests, Louise refused to visit them or attend their funerals. Though David was quite successful both academically and professionally, things began to sour for him as a husband. A 2011 bankruptcy filing for $240,000 in credit card debt revealed shoddy accounting, a lack of professional opportunities, and increased detachment from the world. The documents listed the income of an engineer at Northrop Grumman at $140,000 per year, and the principal of the Sandcastle Day School operated out of his home for his 13 children. His wife was listed as a homemaker, with the Paris residence serving as a school hub. This sordid lifestyle persisted until their 17-year-old daughter revealed the truth in 2018. Imprisonment for the parents. David and Louise Turpin pleaded guilty to 14 felony charges to avoid a trial on February 22, 2019. These included 1 count of torture, 4 counts of false imprisonment, 6 counts of cruelty to adult dependents, and 3 counts of willful child cruelty. While David and Louise Turpin are expected to be sentenced to life in prison, and it can't be easy for any child to see that, the newly liberated Turpin children seem to be on a promising new path of physical and psychological recovery. Tragically, life for the Turpin children hasn't gotten much easier. As of June 2022, many of the younger children have been victimized again by the system, as they were fostered by people who were later charged with abuse. However, the Turpin children are now on the long road to recovery, but the scars of their ordeal will never fully heal. Their story reminds us that bad things can hide behind a normal appearance. Thank you for joining us on this journey into darkness. Until next time, stay safe, and never forget to cherish the ones you love.